Frozen night. Unexpected visitor. The wind screamed across the frozen alien valley. Thick snow blew in waves, covering the ground and turning the sky into a white blur. Human explorer Jake Connor was alone on this icy planet, far from Earth, with nothing but his tent gear and stubborn will to survive. He had just finished setting up his thermal tent near the edge of a jagged cliff. His gloves were stiff from frost. He rubbed his hands together and activated the small heater inside. The tent was tight, barely enough for one person, but it was warm and safe from the deadly storm outside. Jake sat down, chewing on a protein bar. The storm was getting worse. Visibility was almost zero. He looked at the digital map on his wrist pad. No life signals in a 10-kilometer radius. It should have been a quiet night. Then he heard it, a soft thump. At first he thought it was just the wind, but then another thump, louder this time. It came from just outside the tent wall. Jake froze. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice firm. "No," reply. He quickly pulled out a small energy pistol from his side belt and moved toward the entrance. Slowly, he unzipped the flap and peeked outside. What he saw shocked him. A girl, no, an alien girl, was crawling through the snow toward his tent. Her body was shivering. She was barely dressed, only wearing a thin cloth around her shoulders. Her skin was glowing faintly purple, her eyes wide with fear and pain. "Help, please," she whispered, before collapsing face first into the snow. Jake didn't think. He rushed outside, grabbed her, and pulled her into the tent. Her skin was ice cold. She weighed almost nothing. Her alien features were soft, her fingers long and slender, and small glowing symbols shimmered along her neck. Inside the tent, Jake wrapped her in every blanket he had. He turned the heater to maximum and placed her near it. She didn't speak. Her lips were blue. Her body shook violently. "Hey, stay with me," Jake said gently. "You're safe now. I won't hurt you." Her eyes opened slowly, blinking as she looked around. Then her eyes met his. They glowed softly, almost golden. "You, not them," she whispered. Jake frowned. "Them? Who?" But she said nothing more. He gave her warm water and a heat pack. She didn't drink. She didn't move much. Instead, she kept staring at him, silent, cautious. "Can you tell me your name?" Jake asked. She stared at the flame, then whispered, "Elira." "All right, Elira. I'm Jake. I'm human. You're safe in my tent. No one's going to hurt you." But Elira didn't look comforted. She pulled the blankets closer as if hiding from something only she could see. Jake checked his scanner again. Still no signs of other life. "You're alone?" he asked softly. She slowly nodded. He sighed and leaned back. "You picked the right tent to crawl into. Lucky for you, I'm not the kind that turns people away." Suddenly, Elira shifted closer to him. Too close. Her body pressed against his side and her hand rested lightly on his chest. Jake tensed. Hey, what are you doing?" he asked, nervous. Elira didn't speak. She just closed her eyes. Jake felt her skin warming rapidly. Almost too fast. Was she doing something to him? He gently moved her hand off. "You don't have to do anything like that, just rest, okay?" She opened her eyes again, confused. Then she whispered, "You think I came for warmth only?" Jake blinked. "Didn't you?" Her eyes flashed. She shook her head. "I came because they are hunting me," she said, voice barely audible. "I had nowhere else to go." Jake sat up straight. "Who's hunting you?" Elira grabbed his arm. "Please, let me stay, just for tonight. Then I will go." Jake looked at her, really looked. She was scared, shaking. But something in her eyes was strong, like she had survived more than just the cold. "Okay," he said finally. "You can stay, but you'll tell me everything when the storm passes." She nodded slowly. The tent was quiet now. the storm roaring outside while two strangers sat inches apart inside. One was a human explorer just trying to survive the night. The other was an alien girl with secrets and enemies that Jake could not yet imagine, and in the distance far beyond the frozen cliff something had already picked up her trail. She wasn't just cold. Jake didn't sleep much that night. The storm outside howled like a wild beast. The tent walls shook under the icy wind, but inside, the silence was louder. He lay still in his sleeping bag, eyes half open, watching the small flame heater flicker in the dark, and watching her, Elira lay wrapped in layers of blankets, unmoving. Her glowing purple skin looked peaceful now, her silver-white hair spread around her like snowflakes. But Jake couldn't forget how fast she had pressed herself to him earlier, or the way she had whispered that someone was hunting her. He checked, his wrist pad again. Still no signals, no motion, no heat signatures, no radio waves. According to his tools, the planet was empty. But deep inside, Jake felt something wasn't right. Suddenly he noticed movement. Not outside. Inside. Elira stirred, but she didn't just roll over. Her body arched slightly like something invisible passed through her. Then glowing lines appeared on her neck, chest, and arms, ancient alien symbols, pulsing with soft light. Jake's eyes widened. He crawled a little closer. The symbols looked alive. Elira? He whispered. Her eyes shot open, wide, glowing, and wild. She sat up fast. Don't touch me, she hissed. Jake raised both hands. Whoa, it's okay. I didn't do anything. Your body, those symbols just lit up. Elira looked down at herself and gasped. She quickly pulled the blanket tight. They're tracking me, she whispered. The hunters. They see the glow. Jake's stomach turned. You mean right now? They can see you right now? She nodded slowly. Only for a moment, then the glow fades, but now they know I'm alive. Jake cursed under his breath. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I thought I'd be dead before the night ended, she said quietly. Now I've made you a target too. Jake looked at the tent's entrance, now just thin fabric separating them from whatever might be out there. Who are these hunters? He asked. Elira lowered her head. My people, the Virellans. You're running from your own kind? She nodded. I am impure. Born without voice, without power, without a clan. The elders decided I should be given to the frost, to die alone. It is tradition. Jake's jaw clenched. That's not a tradition. That's cruelty. She looked at him surprised. You care? She asked. Jake stood and grabbed a small box from his gear. Where I come from, we don't leave people to die in the snow. I'm a human. We fight for each other. He tossed her the box. It held a nutrient cube and a heat capsule. Eat, he said. You'll need your strength. Elira took it, stared at it, then back at him. I don't understand you, she whispered. You could have let me die. Jake chuckled. That's exactly why you'll understand me one day. She ate quietly. As she did, Jake moved to the scanner and extended its range. But something caught his eye. A short pulse of heat far away. A flicker, then gone. Something's out there, he muttered. Suddenly, Elira stood. Jake turned. You okay? She didn't answer. She was staring at the tent wall. Her skin shimmered again, and she stepped forward slowly like she was listening to something Jake couldn't hear. Elira? He asked again. They're close, she said. Jake grabbed his coat and weapon. Then we move. She looked at him, confused. Where will you go? There's nothing but ice. I know a cave system 5 kilometers north. Deep tunnels. No, signal can pass through there. Elira hesitated. You would take me with you even now? Jake looked her dead in the eyes. You came into my tent. That means you're under my care now. That's the rule. Her eyes softened, but only for a second. Then the tent shook violently. Both of them froze. A heavy thud came from outside, then another. Footsteps, but not human ones. Elira's face turned pale. "They've sent the crawlers," she whispered. "Machines made from bone and steel. No voices. No mercy." Jake grabbed her wrist. "Then we run. Now." But as they moved toward the tent flap, Elira suddenly pulled back. Jake looked at her. She was shaking her head. "I don't know how to run anymore." Jake tightened his grip. "Then learn. Fast." He pushed open the flap and cold wind slapped his face. The snow was thicker, the night even darker, and far in the distance. Red eyes blinked in the dark. Jake turned to Elira. "Stay behind me. And whatever you think you know about humans, just know this." He raised his weapon. "I don't leave people behind." The hunter's mark Jake ran through the thick snow, his breath heavy, his boots sinking deep with every step. Behind him, Elira followed, silent and fast, her bare feet somehow making no sound at all. The red-eyed machines were getting closer. Jake didn't need to look back. He could hear them. Mechanical clicking, sharp legs stabbing into the ice like giant spiders with claws. And they didn't stop. Not for wind, not for cold, not for anything. "Elira!" he shouted over the storm. "Are they tracking your heat, sound, or light?" She gasped. "My mark. It glows again. They follow it." Jake stopped suddenly and turned toward her. "Show me." Elira hesitated. Then, pulling back her collar, she revealed her neck. Right there below her jaw, a glowing red symbol pulsed slowly like a heartbeat, an alien symbol, shaped like a spiral sun. Jake stared at it. "Is it a tattoo?" "No. It was burned into me when I was a child. A curse. It grows brighter when... I'm afraid..." She looked down in shame. "It punishes fear." Jake clenched his jaw. What kind of monsters do that to a child? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Jake made a decision. He reached into his gear and pulled out a small device, a high-frequency disruptor used to scramble signals. "I can try masking the signal," he said. "But if I do it wrong, it might hurt you." "I've been hurt before," Elira whispered. "Do it." Jake knelt beside her and pressed the device gently against the mark. He adjusted the frequency. A soft hum filled the air. The symbol sparked, then sizzled, and Elira screamed in pain. The glow faded. Then it was gone. Jake grabbed her before she fell. "You okay?" She nodded weakly, tears in her eyes. Suddenly, the storm got quieter. The clicking stopped. Jake turned around. No movement. The red eyes were gone. It worked. He pulled her close. "We've got time now, but not much." They continued walking. Soon, they reached the edge of a frozen canyon, where a deep crack split the ice. Jake led Elira down into a narrow Andia, a forgotten escape route he had marked days ago. Inside, the world changed. No wind. No cold. Just shadows and silence. They rested on a rock. Elira leaned against the wall, breathing slow. Jake looked at her glowing skin, now dimmed and cold. "Tell me more about this mark, about why they're hunting you." Elira closed her eyes. "I was born different. My kind value power, strength, and silence, but I was weak. I cried often. I asked too many questions. I made them uncomfortable." Jake smirked. "Humans call that being smart." She smiled faintly. "Not where I come from." She touched the spot where the mark had been. "This symbol was given to me during the rite of silence. It marks those who are not worthy. Anyone who carries it must be removed. Erased." Jake sat beside her. "So, why come to me? Why my tent?" Elira hesitated. Then she said something Jake didn't expect. "Because I've heard stories." Jake blinked. "Stories about humans?" "Yes. Whispered among the slaves, the outcasts, the forgotten ones. Stories of a creature not from our stars. A being that doesn't abandon the weak. that fights not for blood but for hope. Jake was quiet. She looked up at him. When I saw your ship land near the mountains, I believed the story might be true. Jake chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm just a science explorer with a tent and a broken drone. Elira smiled again, but this time her eyes were soft, hopeful. That's more than anyone ever gave me. Just then, the tunnel vibrated. Jake stood instantly. That wasn't wind. A low hum echoed through the walls. It was getting louder. They're scanning the ice, Elira whispered. Looking for me, with sonic waves. Jake thought fast. They can't get inside without blasting the entrance. If they do, we'll be trapped. He activated a scanner. The machines were above them. 3 of them. Digging. Jake reached for his emergency tool, a miniature explosive. We'll make our own way out, he said. He placed the charge against the wall and grabbed Elira's hand. Back up. The explosion was small, but it opened a side tunnel just wide enough to crawl through. They escaped through the crack, entering a deeper cave that glowed with strange blue crystals. Jake paused, breathing heavy. Elira knelt beside him. You didn't have to do this, she whispered. Jake looked at her, serious. They marked you, but they didn't break you. That means you're stronger than you think. She looked down at her hand in his. You're different from any creature I've ever known. Jake smirked. That's what they all say. Elira giggled. A soft, beautiful sound Jake didn't expect from someone who had lived through so much pain. And for the first time since she crawled into his tent, Jake felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, not duty. Connection. Tent. Under siege far above the glowing crystal cave, the blizzard had died, but peace never lasts. 3 Virellan hunter machines, tall, spider-like, creatures with skull-shaped heads and long spear limbs, crawled across the ice. Each step cracked the frozen surface beneath them, but they moved with purpose. Silent, merciless, searching. Inside the hidden cave tunnel, Jake and Elira huddled close. Jake adjusted the frequency dampener he had used earlier. He'd reduced her signal but not erased it. The hunters were still out there, and they were narrowing in. We can't stay here long, Jake whispered. Elira nodded. Her body still glowed faintly. Tiny flickers of light around her fingers and neck. The energy inside her was strong, but unstable. I can feel them, she said softly. Their minds are empty, cold, but they know I'm close. Jake loaded his pulse pistol and checked the tunnel walls for another exit. The caves went deep, but some paths were too narrow, others collapsed. They had one way out, back to the tent. Elira looked at him, confused. Why go back? The storm is gone. They will see us. Jake smiled slightly. Exactly. That tent has a trick they won't expect. The snow cracked as Jake stepped out into the cold again. His visor lit up, scanning the surroundings. The tent still stood, barely. Its outer fabric was frozen stiff. But Jake knew what mattered was inside, his emergency defense system. A holographic perimeter shield that created mirror illusions to confuse enemy tech. As Jake and Elira neared the tent, the wind picked up again. Not natural wind, air displacement. Crawler was descending. Jake dove into the tent, pulling Elira with him. Seconds later, the ground outside shook, a heavy thud, then another. Red lights pierced through the ice fog. Jake activated the defense module. Outside, the hunters paused. Their sensors now saw 5 tents instead of 1, scattered in a semicircle. They split up. From inside the tent, Jake whispered, "This won't last long. I bought us maybe 90 seconds." Elira looked at the walls. I remember this place, the cold. It felt safer than the fire of my people. She stood, her eyes glowing brighter than before. I'm done running, Jake blinked. Wait, what are you saying? I don't want you to die for me, she said. Jake laughed. I told you before I don't leave people behind. Then something strange happened. Elira's hands began to glow, not just shimmer, but burn with light. Jake's scanner beeped, wildly. "What are you doing?" Elira closed her eyes. "The mark they gave me, it cursed me. But it also gave me something else. Power I never used." Suddenly, a loud shriek came from outside. One of the crawlers saw through the illusion. It charged forward, ramming its sharp leg into one of the fake tents, only for its sensors to realize, wrong one. It turned sharply toward the real tent. Jake stood, ready to fight. "Get behind me." But Elira didn't move. She stepped forward. "No, this time, I protect you." The tent exploded open as the crawler lunged forward. Jake raised his weapon, too late. But then Elira raised her hand. A pulse of golden energy blasted from her palm. The crawler froze in mid-air, limbs twitching as light wrapped around its body. Its red eyes dimmed, then its metal frame collapsed into the snow. Dead. Jake's mouth fell open. What the hell was that? Elira looked at her hands, glowing like twin stars. The energy they feared, the one they marked. They didn't want to destroy me. She looked at him. They wanted to control me. 2 more crawlers skittered into view, moving faster, now realizing what had happened. Elira stepped forward again, fearless. Jake reached out. "Elira, wait." But she was already in motion. She whispered ancient words and the ground beneath the machines shook. The second crawler shattered like glass. The third tried to retreat, but Elira raised both arms. A wave of light pulsed from her chest, rippling across the snow. The final hunter stopped, then crumbled into pieces. Jake stood in silence. The air was still. The snow fell gently now, and the only sound left was her breath. Elira collapsed to her knees. Jake rushed to her. Hey, stay with me." She smiled weakly. "It's okay. I just used too much. The light is strong, but it cost me." Jake picked her up, holding her close. "You saved us." Elira looked up at him. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for giving me more than a tent. You gave me a reason to live." Jake smiled, brushing her silver hair from her face. "I wasn't just sheltering you, Elira." He looked out at the now peaceful sky. "I was meeting you, running across ice." The sky was clear now, painted in soft blues and oranges as anew. Dawn broke over the frozen planet. The wind had calmed. The blizzard was gone. But peace had a short life in this world. Jake stood at the edge of the cliff, holding Elira in his arms. She was light, too light. Her skin was pale, her glow almost gone. The power she had used to destroy the crawlers had drained her deeply. She needs warmth, food, shelter, Jake whispered to himself. But the tent was gone, burned, shattered, full of holes. The machines had left nothing behind. And now, far, in the distance, something worse was coming. Not machines this time. Virellan ships. 3 dark shapes broke the sky, flying low, searching. Unlike the bone machines, these weren't hunters, they were collectors. When the Virellans wanted to erase something forever, they sent these. Clean, silent, complete. Jake gently laid Elira down on a patch of soft snow. She opened her eyes. "They're here," she whispered. Jake nodded. "Yeah, I see them." "I'm sorry," she murmured. "They'll never stop. Not until I'm gone." Jake knelt beside her, pulled out a heated pack, and pressed it to her back. "Don't say that," he said. "We're not done yet." Elira looked up at him. "Why do you keep helping me?" Jake smiled softly. "Because when I was your age, someone helped me. Pulled me out of a fire back on Mars. Told me life is only worth something if you save someone else with it." He stood up and looked at the icy valley. "We have one option left, but it's insane." Elira sat up slowly. "Then it's perfect." Jake activated his wrist pad. A small hologram popped up, a hidden ice shuttle he had stashed when he first landed. It was miles away, parked on the far side of the frozen lake. But there was a problem. Between them and the shuttle, the ice was thin. Very thin. And below it? A black ocean of freezing water, deadly and deep. We'll have to run across it, Jake said. Elira's eyes widened. We'll fall. Not if we move light and fast, Jake replied. You trust me? She didn't answer with words. She just reached out and took his hand. The two of them sprinted across the frozen field. Every step was a gamble. The ice cracked beneath their boots, long white veins shooting in every direction. Jake had mapped this route before, but with two bodies now and Elira still weak, the danger doubled. Keep your steps small, Jake shouted. I'm trying, Elira gasped. Above them, the Virilan ships adjusted course. One of them fired a scanner beam that lit the ice in bright blue. They were spotted. And then, a loud crack. Jake looked back. Elira's foot had broken through the surface. She screamed, slipping. He turned around instantly and grabbed her arm, pulling with all his strength. The freezing water licked her legs, but Jake didn't let go. Hold on, he yelled. Elira trembled, teeth chattering. I'm slipping. Jake gritted his teeth and yanked harder, just as the ice under his own feet began to crack. Then a light shot down from above. Not a weapon, a beam, a tractor beam. One of the ships had locked onto Elira. No, she shouted as her body started to rise slowly into the air. Jake held on tighter. I said I won't leave you. The beam hummed louder. Jake's boots were skidding across the ice. Then suddenly, Elira screamed, her body bursting into golden light again. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. Her light reached the sky and hit the ship. And for the first time in Virilan history, the ship stopped, frozen in the air, powerless. Then it began to descend slowly and crashed gently onto the snowy plain like a falling leaf. The beam died. Jake and Elira collapsed together onto the ice, breathing hard. What was that? Jake asked, stunned. Elira touched her chest. The mark. They tried to control it, but something inside me woke up. Jake sat up. You just overpowered a warship with your emotions? Elira laughed softly. Feels like your kind is rubbing off on me. They reached the shuttle an hour later. Jake opened the hatch and helped Elira inside. The heater came on, and for the first time in days, she truly relaxed. Jake leaned against the wall, watching her close her eyes. We're not safe yet, he said quietly, but we've got a chance. Elira looked at him and whispered, I would have frozen to death if you hadn't opened your tent. Jake looked back, smiling. You didn't just warm up in there, you lit a fire in both of us. She laughed again. Next time I knock louder. They flew into the sky together, leaving behind broken ice, dead hunters, and a rising sun. But the real story was just beginning. She told him the truth. The shuttle soared above the clouds, cutting through the blue sky like a silent arrow. Inside, the hum of the engine was soft, steady. Jake sat in the pilot seat, hands on the controls, eyes focused, but his thoughts were spinning. Behind him, Elira sat quietly, her head resting against the metal wall. She looked peaceful, but Jake knew better. Her powers, her past, her people, none of it was ordinary. And now they were both fugitives. He glanced back at her. You feeling okay? She nodded slowly. Just tired. Jake checked their heading. We'll reach my base camp in about 2 hours. It's hidden. Supplies, medical pods. You'll rest properly there. There was a long silence. Then Elira whispered, You deserve to know the truth. Jake turned in his seat. I haven't told you everything, she said, sitting up. About who I am, about what I am. Jake frowned. Go on. She took a deep breath. In my world, the mark they give outcasts is more than just a symbol. It's a seal, a living brand. But only a few are marked with the kind I carry. The Sunborn mark. Jake blinked. What does that mean? Elira looked him in the eye. It means I wasn't just a weak girl they wanted to get rid of. I was a threat. A prophecy. Jake leaned forward. A prophecy. She nodded. A child born during the 5th sunfall, when 5 stars align in our system, would rise carrying both destruction and salvation. The old leaders feared this child. They swore to find and silence them. She placed her hand over her heart. That child was me. Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with cold. Why didn't you tell me this before? I thought you'd leave, she said quietly. Everyone else did, even those who pretended to care. Jake didn't speak for a moment. Then he stood and walked toward her. I didn't save you because of some prophecy, he said. I saved you because I saw you freezing in the snow alone, scared, and still fighting to live. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Jake added, but now I understand why they were so desperate to kill you. Elira touched the glass beside her. The clouds outside shimmered with sunlight. I don't want to bring death, she said. I never wanted power. I just wanted to belong somewhere. Jake sat beside her. Well, guess what? You belong here now. With me. She blinked fast, as if trying to hold back tears. You keep saying things no one's ever said to me. Jake smiled. That's because they're true. Suddenly the shuttle beeped. Jake rushed to the cockpit. Warning. Unidentified ship detected. 50 kilometers and closing fast. Jake narrowed his eyes. They're tracking us again. Could be another Virulon collector. Elira stood. We need to land. There's nowhere to hide, Jake replied. Not in open sky. Elira stepped closer. Then we don't hide. We lure them. Jake turned toward her. That's suicide. She shook her head. It's a choice I've run my whole life. But if I face them now and win, even just once, I send a message to every girl with a mark like mine, that she doesn't have to hide anymore. Jake stared at her. This wasn't the frightened girl who had crawled into his tent. This was someone who had found her voice. He stood slowly. All right. But we do it together. Elira smiled. They landed the shuttle on a narrow mountain ridge, exposed, impossible to miss. Then they waited. The sky trembled. A dark Virulon ship descended through the clouds, sleek and black with glowing red runes on its hull. It hovered in silence. Then, a door opened. A figure stepped out, tall, armored, eyes like burning coals. A Virulon warden. Elira of the fifth son, it said in a voice like cold metal. You were marked to be forgotten. You've broken the silence. Elira stepped forward. Not forgotten. Awakened. The warden raised its arm. Elira raised hers. Light exploded between them. One golden, one red. Jake shielded his eyes. The mountain shook. When the light faded, the warden was on one knee, armor cracked. Elira stood tall, glowing like a living flame. She spoke loud and clear, her voice no longer broken. You wanted me silent, but now the stars themselves hear me. The warden retreated, defeated. Jake ran to Elira, catching her as she stumbled. You did it. She leaned on him, smiling. No. We did it. The final stand and what she meant. All along. The mountain wind rushed past them, cold but clean as the dark Virulon ship lifted off in silence. It did not return fire. It did not try again. Jake watched it disappear beyond the clouds. His heart was still pounding, not from fear, but from awe. Elira, once just a fragile figure crawling into his tent for warmth, now stood as a force of light, glowing softly even after the power clash. But she leaned against him now, tired. Not weak, just human. Funny, Jake thought. She wasn't human, but she felt more human than most. He helped her sit on a rock by the shuttle. You okay? He asked. Elira smiled faintly. My body is sore, but my soul feels free. Jake chuckled. That's poetic. I read some of your earth poetry. In the tent, she said. It helped me sleep. He smiled. You should have told me. I would have read it to you. Her eyes softened. I wanted to, but I didn't know how to ask. Where I'm from, asking is punished. Jake sat beside her. Then I'm glad you're not there anymore. She looked out over the horizon. The sky was wide. The world below stretched in silver and white, untouched, unwatched. For now. They'll come again, she whispered. With more ships, stronger weapons. They won't accept that I'm alive. Jake nodded. Then we make it so they can't. Ignore that you are. He stood up and pulled out a small transmitter. This beacon, it's old, was meant for Earth Command. I haven't used it in years. Elira tilted her head. You want to call others? Jake turned to her. No, I want to tell your story. Across the stars, to humans, to anyone who'll listen, that the girl with the sun mark survived and won. Her eyes widened. But that would expose us. They'll track the signal. Jake smiled. Let them, because this time, you won't be alone. She looked at him with emotion rising in her chest. You'd risk your life for me, again? Jake shrugged. You already risked yours for mine. She reached out, gently touching his chest where her hand had rested that first night. That night, when I entered your tent, she said softly. I told myself I just wanted warmth. Jake remembered. How she had trembled, how she had pressed close, how confused he had been. But that wasn't the truth, she continued. Jake met her gaze. Then what was? I wanted to feel something warm. Inside, she said. Not my body. My heart. She looked down, voice trembling. I'd never felt kindness before. I didn't understand it, so I didn't know how to ask for it, but you gave it to me anyway. Jake blinked. Her words hit him harder than any battle. You didn't just open your tent, she said. You opened a world I didn't believe could exist. Jake stepped closer. You taught me something too, that even the most feared people, even the most hunted, can shine. She took his hand in hers. I don't want to hide anymore, she whispered. Not my name, not my power, not my feelings. Jake looked at her for a long moment. Then don't, he said. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. Their warmth, human and alien, merged into one. No mark, no fear. Just understanding. Suddenly the transmitter beeped. Signal locked, the machine said, ready to broadcast. Jake smiled. Let's wake the galaxy. 1 week later, across 12 systems, across colonies, outposts, slums, and satellites, the signal played. A simple message. An image of a girl with glowing skin, a mark on her neck, fire in her eyes. My name is Elira, the voice said. They told me I was broken, unwanted, a curse, but I'm not. She smiled. I was saved by someone who didn't see what I was, but who chose who I could become. The message ended with the human and the alien girl standing together at the cliffside, staring into the stars. Back on the frozen planet, ships arrived, but not to hunt, to protect. Others like Elira came out of hiding. Silent girls with marks. Boys with strange powers. The forgotten, the outcasts. Jake and Elira welcomed them all. The tent that once sheltered one now stood at the center of a new beginning. Not a kingdom, not a rebellion, but a place where no one was left to freeze alone. And every night, when the cold returned, Elira would whisper to the fire, I didn't come into your tent to survive. Jake would smile. You came to live.